Wasn't interested in the kind of conventions of naturalistic drama anymore. I wanted to discover a kind of cinematic language that was more able to describe the inner landscape, and so I kind of thought about how that might be done, and I read a lot of the work of Meyerhold and people like that, who talk about stylization as the subtraction of surface rather than the decoration, and so the idea was to subtract all the kind of trappings of location and try and reach something that was still visually lush and representative of the lives in which these characters lived, but without the kind of a carriage pulls up outside a big house and all of that stuff.
But yeah, I mean, I think it is challenging to play a role that has been done before and people know. I mean, saying that, I don't think Anna it's not like playing somebody like Elizabeth Bennet in Pride and Prejudice, where people really love her and women see themselves as her, and want to be her. With Anna, I don't think you want to be her, and I think you don't love her in the same way. I think she's a very complicated, strange creature that you understand, and you suddenly go, my God, I've done that. I understand that scenario in hopefully a less extreme way, but with great female characters, and we'd both read it before, and so we talked about it, and then he just phoned up out of the blue one day about 2 years ago and went, okay, you remember that conversation we were having about Anna Karenina? Well, how about it? And I just said yes immediately, but it was quite a strange one, because again, I'd read it when I was much younger, so I didn't really, I remembered it as being this beautiful romance and being swept up in it and sort of finding it ravishing, and then obviously read it again before we started filming and suddenly went, whoa, this is a very different, much darker thing than I remembered it being. So it was a kind of fascinating process of trying to kind of balance that darkness, well, dark and light, really.
Really just taken with the script, the script's simplicity and its the sparing nature of something so extensive and detailed, and Joe didn't make that decision until a little later on, and when he did, I was very happy to have made it as a realistic period drama set on location, but when I got the phone call that he had this epiphany, this vision of how he wanted to make it, I was really energized and excited by it, to hear a director. Film is very much a director's medium, and I think he had this bold and clear way in which it could work, and I believed him, and I believed in the vision, and it didn't seem to come from a place of pretense, but of passion, and when that happens, I follow very willingly. It felt that we were in something that was celebrating other great stylists in cinema in the past, and also adding a new texture. I think it enhanced the piece and freed the piece, and
I want physical movement to express the emotion of the scene while speaking the lines, and but they were still looking in places of Russia, to film it, and he just felt that it was just going to be just the same as any other kind of costume drama, and his idea was to kind of build it on a stage, and it came from or he'll tell you, but he got his inspiration to do that, and use it as a metaphor for like the Russian society and how they were all sort of puppets in this kind of show.
And quite kind of can sometimes be a bit arch, but normally not very emotional, but we knew that we wanted to keep that kind of raw emotion of Anna intact. So trying to balance that with shooting a twirling person through a mirror and timing a teardrop to be exactly at that moment when you got in front, was pretty complex.
There were certain moments that were technically very tricky, but I do a lot of theatre work, and so I'm kind of used to moving sets, and I felt very at home, and I liked the precision of it, and again, film can be this wonderful experience where you are all working towards a common goal, and when you're really relying on the team around you, it unifies you, and there was a sense of that collaboration on this.
Yeah, it was really new and different, and I really loved his idea of it. I admire him for that. Yeah, it's great with backdrops sliding, and you're moving in and out, and they're very technical, very clever, beautiful shots. It's great to be a part of things like that.
His own ideas about love and family, and I think that's something we all have to figure out for ourselves, and so I think it's it appeals to us on that level, on a very emotional, personal level. I think the book's rather like a kind of a soap opera. It's a domestic drama.
None of his characters are perfect. He doesn't deal with perfection. He deals with idealism, but he deals with human flaws. And I think, a lot of people have said about this, or rather Tom Stoppard, when we first started doing this adaptation, went, this is a thesis on love. And I sort of went, I don't know what you mean. But I think as we went on, it became clear that it was right. What Tolstoy seems to be dealing with is the whole spectrum of the emotion of love. And that is the romantic, beautiful kind of side of it, with companionship and friendship and lust and all those things. But it's also the side that is madness, that is jealousy, that is neurosis, that is loneliness. And I think the fact that he tackles the whole thing and not just one part of it is what makes his writing and his character studies so fascinating.
They're such fantastic characters with such humanity to them that you can relate to every one of them, just even with a small little amount. You love all of them. Even that they're all doing wrong, there is something about them that all have a charm to it. It's relevant in today because the same sort of thing applies. Society do take sides and have their opinions, and very strong opinions, and it happens.
With this particular story, I think Tolstoy managed to unearth the human nature of love, and within the relationships and the characters, I think there are flaws and triumphs, and so it always feels real, and he is dealing with subjects that I think are timeless and subjects that we are never going to have a full understanding of. They are part of us, and they're part of what makes us want